Well, let's get started, and then if people straggle in, they'll just find a place to sit. So I'm Dan, and I'll be leading the networking workshop tonight. I'm actually an intern in the Career Development Center over here, and I work with Patty, who is an excellent career counselor. Give you a quick bit of background about myself. I'm a graduate student here as well, and my experience is in human resources, most really recently at Microsoft and staffing. And so I'm actually really excited to talk about networking because it's something that I'm really passionate about. You guys will see why. It's my favorite workshop I lead and probably the most relevant to all your careers, especially with the economy right now. So I thought maybe it would be fun to just start. We'll start with you, Caleb, and just go around, introduce yourself, say your name, what you do, and what you're hoping to do, or what type of job you're looking to find.
All right.
If you know.
I'm Caleb. What was the last part?
What you're looking to do. Future plans.
Okay, I'm Caleb. I'm still studying. I graduate 2010, so next year, and I'm studying interior design. That's what I plan on doing. There's various avenues. I haven't decided any specialty or anything like that. That's it right there.
Thank you. Standing. I'm Lynn. I'm currently a corporate trainer and project manager. And I'm just looking to leave my current organization and looking to move into more nonprofit work, which I know takes a lot of networking to find the right fit. So that's why I'm here.
Excellent. You don't have to stand if you don't want to.
Are you currently employed? I am. Yeah.
Just curious. Hi, I'm Ashley, and I'm currently a biology major. I'm a senior, so I'm graduating this June.
Excellent.
And I want to go into medical research, I think, of some kind.
Right on.
I'm Gabe. I'm also a senior, creative writing, fiction focused. I'd love to get into screenwriting eventually, but in the meantime, I'll take just about anything that makes money. So.
I'm feeling like that right now. I'm Candace Vera, and I graduated in '99. And also interior design major. Tough field right now, but yeah. You'll find something. But I'm potentially thinking about going back to school and starting over, because I was in the field but not directly enough that I've got really, good connections and whatnot. So
for sure.
So I'd be starting from scratch if I really tried to go straight forward into it. So yeah.
Definitely.
That or admin is where I'm at.
Remind, because we have a good, just to kind of do some assessments online called Career Beam. It's free, and it's just on the homepage of our website. Okay. So that's just something you can kind of do on your own.
Yeah,
good time.
Okay.
For sure.
I'm Greg Millard, and I graduated last year with a bachelor's in psychology, and I like a job with computer networking, but I don't really expect to get it because I don't have much job experience. So I'm kind of looking for maybe an internship or something that might help me get more into that field.
First introductions, name, what you're doing, and what you want to do.
Okay, I'm Jamie, and I graduated in 2008 in clothing and textiles, and I really want to be a fashion designer, and I know starting out as an assistant, and right now obviously the fashion industry is not thriving, so I'm unemployed, and I am basically taking anything I can get at this point. But I've now kind of I wanted to try to stay in the field that I went to school for a try, which seems impossible right now, but
certainly.
Yeah.
Indeed. Brooke, we're just doing introductions.
Okay.
Our name, what we're doing, what we would like to do.
Okay.
Brooke went to school with me, so she's one of my favorite people around.
Is it my turn?
It's her turn, yeah.
Okay.
She's a good multitasker.
Yeah, so I graduated from the Industrial Organizational Psychology program in June, and I worked at just a basic admin role because I moved up to Seattle for graduate school. So I was working in technology, just in an admin role, and then had an opportunity to switch over to Microsoft as a contractor in human resources. So it was only a 4-month contract, decided to take that. It was kind of risky, but I was ready to get out of my other role. So I did that for 4 months, then got another role at Microsoft. It was supposed to go until May, but we all got laid off in the beginning of January. So it was a series of layoffs, but we were kind of in the last round for my group. And now I'm just looking for a job, hoping not to settle for anything less than what I'd like to be doing, which would be within HR, but it hasn't been too lovely out there. So.
Welcome.
Thank you. So, did I...
Well, you covered it, so.
We're glad you're here.
Yeah. Well, what I'd like to do before we start and give you the agenda of what we're doing tonight is hear 3 random facts about the average American worker. So I'm interactive as I speak, and so I want to have feedback. So I'm curious, what do you guys think, and just take any stab at what these 3 figures may represent? They're a little ambiguous on purpose. Any guesses? What is the 100 and 225,000? That's a big number. Gabe.
That cannot be salary, so I'm going to guess mortgage.
Okay. Mortgage, all right. You wish it was salary. Okay. Yeah. Valid guess. Any other stabs? It's a big number. How about the 4 or the 12?
4, I'm guessing, is career changes.
Okay.
Like actual areas of.
Okay. Good guess, yeah. What about the 12? Any guess for the 12? What does this represent for the average American worker? I have all night, so I'll just hang out.
So someone already said 4 is the number of job changes, because I would say 12 would be more like the number.
Okay. So these are obviously ambiguous on purpose. The first is the number of hours the average person will work over their life, which is, that's kind of scary. There's a point to this, so I'm not trying to depress you. The 4 is the number of years you'll work in a job before you switch. So Lynn, close guess, but it's the number of years. And Brooke, you actually hit on the head. That's the number of jobs you'll have over your career anticipated for someone in our day and age. So these say 2 things to me. The first is, if you're going to work that many hideous long hours, you better find something that you're going to enjoy. And so even in this time, if you have to take a detour, make sure it's a stepping stone to get back, because eventually the economy will go back, and you want to have something, a career that you're going to enjoy and love and be on a trajectory for something meaningful and purposeful. Otherwise, that can be 100,000 hours of monotony or 100,000 hours of enjoyment and purpose. Secondly, if you're going to have a job every 4 years and 12 over your career, it's absolutely critical that the stuff we're talking about today, networking and job searching, is not just, I'm in a pinch right now, I'm going to network and get over it. It's absolutely critical for the success of your career. And if you don't catch these things, it may make the difference between a successful or a non-successful career. So take more of a long-term approach and not just, well, the economy's in the dumps, which is true, but it's going to come back around eventually. And if you've been networking, you'll be on the best track for that. So any questions about that? That wasn't meant to depress you. I'm sorry, Jamie. But let's see. So here's our agenda for tonight. We're talking about networking, but I want to start with a broad overview of the job search process, give you an idea of what you should be doing. Second, I want to talk about your network, how you can tap into it and actually leverage it. Third, we'll talk about informational interviewing, which is one of the most powerful ways to job search, and I'll give you a bunch of tips from my own experience too. Then we'll talk about your 30-second interview, a little commercial of yourself, so in your network you can actually give a message for people to understand what you're looking for and help you get to that spot. And lastly, we'll talk about how to manage your network, because it's kind of sticky to have all these contacts and try to keep track of them and update, and how do you stay in contact with them without being a pest. So we'll talk about some of those ways too. Any questions before we jump in? All right. Well, let's talk about the job search process. So the way I've laid out the job search process for you is essentially like a business model. Now, you have to imagine that when you're out in the market, you are a product, you're a brand. So the first step is develop your product. Who are you? What are you good at? What are your knowledge, skills, and abilities that differentiate you from other people? What are your values? Because the work values that you have will determine how successful you are in certain environments. So if you thrive on a fast-paced environment, you're not going to work well in a culture or environment that's slow-paced and not as intensive. So you need to know who you are, what you're good at, what you like, your preferences, your passions, because in the end, those are things that are going to make you the most successful. And if you go into a career where you're not passionate about and you don't have the just God-given skills to work in it, the people who do and enjoy it are going to lap you because it's fun to them. And so, like I said, even if you have to take a stepping stone, make it just a side step. Don't make it your career. So make sure you have something in line that you want. Second, you need to package your product. And this is where most people spend their time in the job search. By the way, the developing your product, most people don't give that enough thought and they just find themselves falling from career to career. Some people are fortunate and blessed and they have a career they love. Others, they find themselves 40 years and then they're just doing something random. They don't know why they're there. So the second is packaging your product. So now you know what your product is, what you're selling to the market. The next part is how do you package it? The traditional things that people think of are your resume, your cover letter. And today that also includes your online presence, your LinkedIn, Facebook, MySpace, whatever have you, and how that can communicate to an employer. Also, a few things that people don't include is business cards. If you are in the job market, you should have business cards of some sort. They don't need to be a business card from your employer if you don't have an employer or if you don't want to use that, but make some sort of business cards, and I'll tell you where to get those. They're really, you can get 500 free business cards at vistaprint.com or spend 20 bucks and get nice business cards with matching return labels. So go to vistaprint.com, make a nifty little business card, and keep that in your packaging for your product. And lastly, what we're going to talk about today is your 30-second advertisement. What is the message about you that if people come to you, why would they want to buy you? So those are the first two. Like I said, most people spend most of their time in packaging, but you need to actually spend more time in the rest. The third is marketing your product. And a simple definition for marketing is any way you communicate about your product. It's not just advertising. It's anything you say to people about yourself and how you sell yourself. And that's where we spend most of our time on today, on the networking, which is the biggest aspect of the third stage of marketing. And essentially, you need to do this stage. We'll talk a little bit about, you need to research companies, research careers, so you're informed, develop a target list of customers as if you're a business marketing your product, and then network amongst those targets, see how it can have the best results. And lastly, the easy one, or easy to guess, is selling your product, which is the interview process, which actually most people, most job seekers choke at this stage. They may get all the way up to an interview, and then they don't make it past. So the interview stage and negotiating your offer, which we're talking about that next week. But like I said, the focus is going to be on marketing your product. But hopefully as you've gone through, make sure, we're not going to spend too much time on it today, but make sure if you haven't thought of it, what are you good at? What differentiates you from the rest of the people in your industry or field? What is your packaging? What is the message it portrays? And is it congruent with what you are desiring to portray to your audience? And then we're talking about the marketing tonight and the selling next week. So make sure you're spending enough time up here so you know what you're going for, enough time here to get by, and most of your time right here. Most people spend a lot of time in packaging, like I said. Get your resume good enough and then go network. It doesn't have to be amazing. If you do a good job networking, you won't actually need a resume. And I probably shouldn't just say that because I help people write resumes, but it's true. So questions about the job search process? If I go too quickly at any point, raise your hand or shout it out. I'll just stop. No big deal. I'll slow down. So the next thing is do your research. And the reason I mention this, it seems kind of elementary, but many people who are looking for a job just neglect this. They spend their time scouring Monster or Career Builder or Craigslist, but they don't spend enough time doing research. So there's a couple things. First, research the career. If you know what career you're going to go into, so Brooke knows she wants to be in human resources. She might not have to do as much research on the career. In that case, what type of job does she want in human resources? Because that's a very broad field. And what specific companies may she be interested in? So once you've researched the career, the type of jobs in the career, and the most important is the companies, and pick a target. I'm going to hammer on this tonight. It's one of your takeaway points. Pick a job search target. An analogy I will give: a few weeks back, I had a buddy who got married. And before he got married, I went to his bachelor party. And I know what you're thinking, but it wasn't anything shady. So, but he went to a gun range, took us to a gun range. I showed up with my brother, and it was I don't know, Patty's laughing. It was pretty funny because there's about 10 guys, and they have an assortment of guns. They have assault rifles. Gabe's laughing. He's probably been one of those. They have assault rifles, handguns, rifles, shotguns, the whole 9 yards. And it's kind of like, okay, this is interesting. So we're hanging out there, and these guys, some of them don't even have targets downrange, and they're just shooting the guns. And after they left, my brother brought his gun. He said, "Hey, Dan, let's go do some target practice." I said, "Okay." So we went down there. All the guys were gone. We set up our targets, took our time, aimed, probably shot not even a fraction of these shots that the guys shot before, but we took the targets and we hit the target every time and did a pretty good job. And it was fun. So the point of that is, don't just network random places and don't just look for any job, have a target. So if you're gonna switch careers, pick at least a couple targets to go towards instead of just, I'll take anything. I mean, anything may come, but it's more likely that if you go towards a target that you fit with, you're gonna have better success in there. And if you think about it too, it makes sense. People are gonna hire you because you fit with them. So you should pick targets that you have interest in and that you would fit well in, because you're competing with a lot of other people. So why should I, if I'm an employer, take the person who doesn't really care about this job versus the person who's also out of work, who loves this field and would go into it anyways, regardless of the economy. So pick a target. That's like the absolute most critical thing to do. And here's something you should all do too. Make a list of target companies. So we talked about marketing to your customer. Your customers are the companies. You're the product. You're selling them yourself. So make a list, whether it's the companies that have human resource positions, which every company does. In that case, maybe it's what industry do I want to work in? Or you want to do screenwriting. So who does screenwriting in Seattle area? Find those people, search online, we'll talk about how you can do that. And those are people you want to talk to. If that's one of your targets, talk to all those people. And so some people, it might be determined what industry, other people it's what type of companies, but absolutely make a list of like 5 to 10 companies and research them, and make sure no more than half of those companies are Boeing, Microsoft, Amazon, or Weyerhaeuser, because those are like the big companies that everyone wants to work for, but they also have the most complex human resource structures, as Brooke knows, and so you'll have a much tougher time actually getting in there. And a smaller company, you may actually be able to go to them face to face and get a job right away. Welcome.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. So make sure most of the companies on your list are mid-size or smaller companies. You'll have a much better fighting chance of getting in there than at a large organization, unless you go in as a contractor. That's one of the entry points. Any questions about this? I'm just throwing lots of information out there. So
I'm going to make one comment.
Yeah.
I think even if we weren't in an economic downturn, I'd say more like 25 to 50 companies.
So there's another opinion. Yeah. And you know what? If you have 25 to 50 companies, that's good. If you really feel overwhelmed, have at least some sort of target list. And those are the companies you want to talk to people about. Those are the companies you want to research online. And if you're networking, you can mention those are the companies you're interested in. Odds are someone in this area knows someone who works there, and then they'll get you in. So how do you do the research? It's easy. First, you go online, research the company website once you determine your target list. Research blogs on the field or industry. Go on LinkedIn. If you don't know what that is, sign up. I had Greg sign up last week. Go on to Facebook, Google, do whatever you can, but make your target list, and then do targeted networking. You're going to keep hearing the word target as we go along, because I really want you to take that away. Don't just search random places. It's definitely not as effective as a good targeted search. Just like the guys at the range, if you're firing off rounds randomly or having a target you're shooting at, you're much more likely to actually get close to it, or at least be on the target. So that is the deal with doing your research, and that's absolutely critical. So we'll transition from the general job search process to networking, because I think that's probably your best bet when it comes to job searching. So when I say the word networking, or you hear the word networking, what comes to mind? You're about to speak.
Just communication, interaction with people in your industry.
Okay, yeah. Good definition. Anyone else? What do you think of when you think of networking? Positive, negative? Positive?
I think of expansion, you know, figuring out who you know and who those people know and who you can get in contact with for certain people.
Definitely. So networking is one of those, it's kind of a vague term people throw out there. Some people have positive reactions, some people have negative. These are things a couple definitions of networking. First, it's about building a personal referral network. How many of you have a friend? That should be all of you. If you have a friend, you can network. If you can have a conversation, which I've talked to most of you as you came in, you can network. And networking is about building a personal referral network. It's about building strong relationships so that you can help them out and that they can help you out as well. Some people think of it as, oh, I just need to make connections. It's not that. And networking is much more of that. It's a habit, not an act. So people often say, oh, I'm networking. Oh, you're looking for a job? Well, you do network when you're looking for a job. It should be more than that. Networking should be a habit of building relationships. So it's not just, well, I'm unemployed, so gonna go network, talk to my friends and hit them up for leads. It's actually building relationships. And so that's one of the things I want to communicate to you guys as well too. And it's not a substitute for knowledge. So how many of you heard the phrase something along the lines of, it's not what you know, but it's who you know? Well, that's true to a certain extent. Who you know will get you in the door and give you the opportunities, but if you don't know your stuff, you won't get the job. So my philosophy is be an expert in whatever you are an expert at and know your people. If you don't know your people, you won't be able to use your great knowledge, but if you just know stuff, you're not going to be able to use that either. So make sure you build a personal referral network and just build relationships with people. So, freezing here. So like I said, once you determine what you're going to target, I keep using the target, then you determine who you should be talking to. And there's tons of places to network. Reach out for referrals. So the first thing to think of is, who do I know in my target? So let's say my target is I want to do script writing. Okay, who do I know in the film industry? Write that list down. And let's say you don't know anyone in the film industry. Then it's, who do I know who knows someone in the film industry? So I was talking to Gabe before that. My brother's in the film industry. I don't know if you know anyone, but now you know someone who knows a bunch of people. So, I mean, that's networking right there. So then reach out for referrals anywhere, your current job, friends and family, this room for the workshop, alumni associations. By the way, there's a little gold mine. Think of how many people have graduated from SPU. Now, think of how many of them maybe are doing something you'd like to do, and they probably have a job right now. So go to the Alumni Association or come to us or go on LinkedIn, join the Alumni Association group and do a keyword search for your field and find people in it and reach out to them and say, hey, I'm an SPU alum. Oh, so am I. Great, let's connect. And they'll give you some information. Maybe they're not hiring, but they can tell you who is or direct you in the right path. So that's an absolute gold mine. Professional associations, we'll talk about that in a second. That is one of your best bets too. Anywhere you go, essentially, like I said before, if you can have a conversation, you can network. Do you go to a grocery store? You can network. Just be available and willing to talk about what you do or what you're looking for. So what I want you guys to do now, we'll take a few minutes and take out a scratch piece of paper. Patty has pens and paper if you don't have any. And what I'd like you to do is write down, like make 10 little lines and write down 10 people you know who are either in your fields, or if you can't think of anyone in your field, write down as many people as you know you can think of who may know someone in your field. So for Brooke, for example, I'm using the HR example because that was my background too. If you don't know anyone in HR, who do you know who may know someone in HR? Do you have, there you go. So it's write down the people in your field that you know of, or in your target, I should say. You could have more than one target. And then secondly, if you can't think of anyone, write down the people you know who may know someone. I'll start with 5 minutes. If you guys need more time, we'll go up to 10. Now, once you figure out your list, the next thing to do is reach out to the people on your list and ask them, well, first, if they're in your field, ask to talk to them. And if they're not in your field, but they may know someone, ask them for a referral. The best way to network is through referrals. If you cold call, you can still meet with people, but if you go through referral, it's much easier. So let's say, for example, that I'm friends with Patty, and I say, hey, Patty, do you know someone who works at SPU in their Career Development Center? And she says, Yeah, I do. Well, she's my friend, so she's going to refer me. And they trust Patty, whoever she's connected me to, so they already trust me. So if you cold call, I mean, it just makes sense. You may get in, but it's not as easy as, hey, could you talk to my friend? Oh yeah, well, I like you. Of course I'm going to talk to someone you referred to me. So the first thing, like I said, target your network, make your list for your contacts, and then reach out for referrals. Now, some of you may say, I really don't know anyone in my field. I don't know enough people. I don't know people in high places. I know my stuff. I don't know my people. Well, first off, you know more people than you think. I guarantee you, if any of you have Facebook, you probably have at least 100 friends who each have 100 friends, who each have 100 friends, and that's 1 million people to a third degree. And so you know more people than you know. So the excuse of I don't know people is absolute hogwash, because everyone knows more people on technology today. There's absolutely no reason you can't connect to people. So if you're still stuck and say, Dan, you're making me feel bad, I really don't know people. Well, your miracle is professional associations. How many of you have heard of or are a member of a professional association? Excellent. What do you got? What are you a member of?
I'm a member of a couple of them. But, Law Librarians of Puget Sound, Pacific Northwest Library Association, American Association of Law Libraries,
wow.
Special Library Association.
Do you want to go into the library?
I am a librarian.
Okay, there you go. What are you a member of, Candace?
Working on it.
Working on it?
Yeah.
It's on the list.
Yeah, professional organizers in here.
Okay, yeah. What about you, Lynn?
American Society of Training and Development.
Excellent, ASTD, very good society. So the point is, some of you know, but if you're not a member of a professional association, join, because the benefits of it are, one, you get their publications, so you get maybe a magazine or some access to workshops, but the best part is you get their membership list. So I'm a member of SHRM, Society for Human Resource Management, which I'm not sure if Brooke is or not, but if she's not, she should join and go to the Lake Washington Human Resource Association luncheons on Wednesdays, I think, and network with HR professionals. So the best part about that is every field has a professional association, and the people in that field congregate together. So they know who in that field is hiring. So maybe you're in a field that you're trying to get out of. Google whatever you want to go into. If you want to go into marketing, type in marketing associations or marketing societies. Yeah, and then find what they are. Or go to iloveseattle.com. It's a site that organizes all the networking events in Seattle, and it has every single networking association. And I kid you not, there are hundreds. It blew my mind. So I just did random searches this afternoon for some students. iloveseattle.com. And you can just type in the keywords what you're looking for, and you'll pull up the association. So for those of you who are students, join now, because for SHRM, for example, it costs $30 as a student, as opposed to a lot more when you're out. So about 300, I think. So join now if you're a student. If you're not a student, still join, because it's absolutely worth its weight in gold. You just call them up, and I mean, at that point you don't even have to have a referral, because you're a member of their club, and so of course they're going to give you some time to talk to you. And you don't go in saying, I want a job, but you go and we'll talk about how to go about doing that. You go in there to learn about their background, their company, and you'll get some good information. Plus, if they are impressed by you and they know where the jobs are, they'll direct you to those. So especially if you want to break into a new field, or side note, if you ever open up your own business in the future, or you're hiring someone, like let's say you had to hire someone to do PR, go to the PR association and ask them to post a job for you. It's an absolutely wonderful way to either network for finding jobs, or if you have your own business one day, which some of you probably will. So
can I make one comment too? It's also, when you go to a professional organization, get involved. I mean, you very quickly can be from like someone new and an outsider to an insider, and you have much better quality contacts. Get on a committee. You'll end up being more of a peer with the people that you're working with, and that's a really a great way to very quickly get some really good contacts in your field of interest, and more quality and quantity as well.
Definitely, and actually, as Patty mentioned, that if you join any association, try to become friends with whoever. If you get involved or not, become friends with the people who run it, or are the project managers or whatnot, because they are going to know everyone, and so they'll be able to tell you who to talk to. So those are the best people to connect with, because they're well connected in your field. So yeah, good advice for that, Patty. Definitely get involved if you can. Any questions about professional associations? Literally just type in a Google search and you'll pull up, I mean, several. There's a multitude of them. So how many of you have done informational interviewing before? Wow, more than I normally get. Any experiences, good or bad?
I find it really awkward. I mean,
Yeah.
just because I don't know, it's one thing when you're interviewing for a job because there's an end goal and it's very clear and the roles are very defined, but for informational interviewing, I don't know.
It's a little more murky.
There's murky, yeah, there's not as much of a point. I feel very obligated to the person because I am definitely using their time and I'm not really giving them anything in return except maybe a cup of coffee or buying them lunch, and it seems, I've only done a couple, but I'm very indebted to them, and I'm like, hey, thanks.
Not very comfortable to feel like you went and took their time and there's not a clear goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Gabe, you were about to say something.
Yeah, basically the same thing, but for me, everything got less awkward after I tried to totally forget how awkward it was. So.
Okay. Anyone have a good experience? Brooke.
I love informational interviewing just because it gives me an opportunity to see what road they took to get to where I potentially might want to be. And I am very clear with my objective and where and what my end goal is, and just meeting with them because it can be awkward. It's not like an interview. So if I make sure that I really put that up front, this is what I'm trying to get at, this is what I'm hoping, the information I'm hoping to pull from you, it kind of relieves that awkwardness. So I don't know, I've always found them to be more of a positive experience.
Brooke's gonna be my poster child tonight. You think I told her to say that? So I found a few benefits, and I've personally done dozens. I can't even count. I tried to count this year how many I did, and I don't even know. So I've done dozens, and I've had some that, just like Lynn and Gabe said, it's super awkward, and I don't even know I was there. And others have been really good in like the job opportunities. And I'll tell you, probably every job I've had's come through networking. And if you think about it, most people find their jobs through networking. And actually, it's kind of like, I think of job searching kind of like dating sometimes, because people meet their spouse online. It does happen, but it's far, far less often than the person who met their spouse or girlfriend, boyfriend through school, a class, work even, a friend. I mean, friends are the #1 reason that people hook up together. And that's pretty much the same thing for jobs. I know I could go on the analogy forever, but they really do informational interviews do three main things for you. First, it builds confidence. So if you're a recent grad and you're going and talking to professionals, I remember the first time I talked to an HR manager, I thought I was gonna pee myself, and I just had really bad questions. It was awkward, and I didn't really have a point, kind of like you guys said. It's like I'm robbing this person of their time, literally, because I added no value at all and didn't really get much. But as I continued to do more, I found that it made me a lot more confident. I was starting to speak like an HR professional, even though I was just a student. And by the time I actually had an employment interview, I can speak like an HR professional. And if I'm interviewing with an HR manager, well, I've talked to several of them, so I know what they're looking for. I know what their objectives are and what they want. So that's if you're a new grad. If you're going to a new field, it adds even other benefits too, because you don't know the jargon of the industry. And if you're going into a new industry, you can learn how they speak and sound like an insider, like Patty was saying, for the professional associations. So it helps build confidence, professional confidence. Secondly, it may lead to jobs. Now I know what you're thinking. I said may, not will. And the reason for that is you never, ever, 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 ever go into an informational interview asking for a job. You go for information, you have a clear objective, but the beauty of it is the best side effect is you get jobs. And you think about this, if you go and talk to someone, if you're well prepared, if you've done your research and you're professional, and they had a position open that you'd fit for, of course they're gonna say, hey, you should interview, because you just did them a favor and brought them a good candidate. If they don't have a position, but you still made an impression, they may know who in the field is, because every field, as some of you probably know, everyone knows each other, and they know all their competitors. They know they have friends at other companies. They've probably worked at other companies, and so they know where you should go. So it may lead to jobs in that regard. I've had informational interviews that a year and a half later, I kid you not, have resulted in job opportunities. And ironically, sometimes it's like you plant the seeds and you water them and, comes up a couple years later. but the more you network, it's just an investment. Every time you network, it's like putting more money into a bank with a huge return rate. So it may lead to jobs, but never ask for it. And third, it will direct your career. So if you're new, you don't know exactly what you want to do, you go in with the objective of, I'm doing career research on this field. I'd love to learn about what it's like, hear your experience. If you're into your career and you're switching jobs or switching careers, then it's, well, hey, I'm going into a new field, which I'm not an expert in. I'd love to talk to you, just learn about what it's like, get any tips you could tell me, resources. If you don't know the professional associations, ask them, they'll tell you. And you can ask them, like Brooke said, what path did you take to get here? I love a job like yours one day. How did you get here? What did you do? And they'll tell you. So my favorite question is, what advice do you have for me? And then it's just kind of like, I just let them tell me and I write down notes. So even if you are looking for a job, I would still do informational interviews if it's in your field, because the more people you know, like I said, the economy is not always going to be bad, and eventually it's going to turn around and you're going to have a huge network. And if you get laid off again, because let's face it, you're going to have 12 jobs over your career, you kind of have a safety net. So when you fall, you can call these people to catch you, as opposed to, well, now what? So not only is it preventative, but it's the best offensive move, if you will, you can make in your career. Yes,
I've got to put my 2 cents worth in here too. And just to, for some of you that you're saying, "Oh, I'm taking their time," it really is a two-way street. And just I wanted Dan to share an example of when he was meeting with somebody and they actually had a job opening, but it wasn't, a fit for him. But he ended up referring, I think I'm right, a friend who ended up at least getting an interview for this job. So I think you have to know that you do have something to offer. And as time goes on, I've had experiences where I asked someone for an informational meeting, or we knew each other professionally, and then we cultivated a relationship where she changed careers and then she came to me for some information, and now she's a recruiter and we're on LinkedIn together and she posts jobs. So this has been going on for like 10 or 15 years. So I think if you can look at it that you do have things to offer. Sometimes after you meet with somebody, you might see an article that based on your conversation you think would be of interest to them online, a blog or whatever, and you can forward it to them. And know that this is you're starting to develop an ongoing relationship, and as you proceed in your career, you will bring a lot of value to that relationship. So maybe not starting out, but it is really a two-way street.
Yeah, that's and Patty's here to chime in. So that's absolutely excellent advice. It is a two-way street. And it seems awkward at first, and I'm going to actually talk more about what are some of the things you can do so you don't feel like you're just robbing them of their time. But yeah, if it is a two-way street and you can give to them, and it actually, especially if you're into your career already, I mean, you have connections or can help them out in ways that they may not have thought you could already. So there's definitely things you can do. Questions about this so far? Okay. So we talked about determining your target network, get a referral. Every time you do an informational interview, prepare questions and research in advance. And this is absolutely critical for any job search, even for an interview. If you go into an interview and you don't know anything about the company, like Brooke will laugh at this. I've heard people who go to Microsoft and have asked questions like, how many people work at Microsoft? It's online. It's 70,000, well, less now, but I mean, that's all over the internet. You could find that out yourself. So go online, research the company, their website at the bare minimum. Go on LinkedIn, research the person. You never know if you have something in common with them. One thing I like to share, there's a gentleman who's mentoring me, and he actually likes mixed martial arts. And so I mentioned him, hey, see, you like MMA. So do I. Oh, great, rapport, there we go. So you never know what you have in common with them. I was actually looking at one lady online who I'm gonna try to connect with at a firm I'm interested in. Because I'm doing my own job search, by the way, so everything I'm telling you guys, I'm doing myself. It's not just, go do this theory. But I was looking at her LinkedIn profile. Oh, guess what? She went to SPU in, I think like, 78. So I'm going to email her and say, hey, I'm an SPU student. Would you like to meet with me? And she went to SPU, so I have a better inroad than if I didn't. So look at their LinkedIn profile, because you never know what you have in common with them, which could be a bridge for you to, if nothing else, build quick rapport. It seems so funny, but those little things really do make the difference. And people hire people who they like. So if they like you, your chances just went through the roof of getting a job. So I put together a list of rules and best practices because I've done a ton of informational interviews, and I'll tell you some of the things I found that have made them not bomb, and things I do that I can go in an informational interview and not have it be awkward, or feel like I wasted their time, or feel like, why am I even here wasting my time? So the first thing to do is never ask for a job. And I'm mentioning that again just because I've heard horror stories from even professors here on campus about when they were in the industry and students would come to them and they'd say, oh, sure, of course, you're a student. And the person would come in and ask for a job. And you just pull the bait and switch because you asked for information and then you switched it to a job. So go in expecting information and never ask for a job. If the job is there, it'll serendipitously come to you. Second, know what you want. This is what Brooke was talking about. Have an objective. So if you're talking to someone in your target, know what you want. If it's just career research, then have your objective. You don't have to even, you can tell them or not, but at least have in your head, I'm going in to learn about this field, or I want to develop my target list. So I'm going to ask them, by the way, one of the best ways to put together your target list we talked about earlier, ask the people on your list. So if you talk to someone at a company, you say, hey, if you left here, where would you go? Or who are your competitors? Because those are companies you might want to talk to as well. So know what you want. If you want to go to a specific firm, so right now there's a specific firm I'm targeting. So I had an informational interview this morning actually, and I asked the gentleman, do you know anyone at this firm? And he said, yes, he gave me a name. So have a specific targeted objective for your informational interview. And this applies to just work in general. If you ever have a meeting, you want to have an agenda. It's like your agenda. Have an agenda with you so you don't just waste time in a meeting. You can get something you want out of it. That relates to job searching and the work world in general. So know what you want. Third, respect their time. Often I found, some people say different figures. I found most informational interviews are standard half hour to an hour. So I go with the assumption it's gonna be half hour, and I'll ask them up front. I just wanna make sure how much time we have. And then I'll kind of stop and look at my watch at 25 minutes in and say, hey, I'm really enjoying this conversation, but I really want to respect your time. And often, most often, they say, Dan, don't worry, I've got another half hour. And great, they just gave me some time. Make sure you have enough questions for an hour though, because if it's only half hour and they say sure, then I've had that. It's like, oh, I'm trying to play it suave. Oh, I really want to respect your time. I don't have any more questions. Oh, don't worry, Dan, I have half more hour. I have 30 more minutes. Well, now I'm just trying to fish for, so what I usually do is I'll write a list of about 10, 12 questions. It usually takes you through an hour. Star about 5 or 6 of them. Those are the ones you most want. And if you don't get through those, ask the other ones. But also wear a watch every single time. I can't tell you how many informational interviews I used to do with no watch. And it was so awkward because I'd be trying to look at their watch upside down to figure out the time. Is it 2 o'clock yet? I don't want to respect their time. So I always wear a watch now, and it's just way easier. I don't go awkwardly over their time. Or it's worse when they say, hey, Dan, I've got to go. And you feel bad. So always wear a watch or some sort of timepiece. So you don't try to look at their screensaver and see what the time is. That's awkward. Fourth, be enthusiastic. So Lynn, you asked, what can I give them? Here's the beauty. You're giving them your enthusiasm. Entry-level candidates are often judged on their enthusiasm and love for the job. And there's tons of research that shows that enthusiasm is one of the biggest keys to interview success. And in an informational interview, the nice thing there is people like to talk about themselves. So if you go in and say, tell me about your career, and I usually save about 15, 20 minutes to hear about their career, which it does a couple things. One, it makes them feel good, because how many people go home and their spouses or kids ask, hey, what did you do at work today? What do you do for work? No one cares. It's sad, but you're going in there and saying, you're important and I want a job like yours one day. And so they feel good, and you give, I found, it's amazing. I can't tell you how many times, because I used to think the same thing, I'm robbing their time. I've had so many people say, this was the highlight of my day, or you made me feel good about my career. I'm like, okay, great. And so it seems so funny, but your enthusiasm really is a gift to them. Even if it's not the most informative conversation, still be enthusiastic. You get something from every informational interview, even if it's, I don't want to go into this job, or I don't want to work in this sector, or I don't want to work in this industry or company. You'll learn something. So be enthusiastic, and you're doing them a favor there, and they feel good, and they'll ramble on for a while, and that's nice too, because then you can pick out parts of their career and say, oh, really, that's interesting. Like, how did you get there? What made you do this and that? Did they plan their career? Did they fall into it? And then you can follow that up with, wow, that's amazing. What type of path could I take to get here? So be enthusiastic. Fifth, be honest. You never want to lie in an interview or be shady. So for example, I said, don't ask for a job, but if you're on the job market, don't pretend like you're not on the job market. You can let them know you're on the job market, but be clear that, hey, the purpose of being here is for information. So often if people ask me what I'm doing, I'll say, yeah, I am on the job market, but I'm really here just to learn about this company. It's a really interesting company to me, and maybe I'll target it in the future. But you don't go in saying, well, I'm here to get a job from you. They're going to get offended really quickly. So also be prepared. Have your list of questions, have your objective, do your research before so you don't sound like a clown. And dress professionally. I went to a financial institution once in jeans, and that was awkward. I would suggest not doing that. I always dress business casual, so this is the least dressed I will go to an informational interview. I only wear a tie if I know it's a suit and tie place. For ladies, just dress business casual. If you're uncertain, ask the person who referred you, because you should have had a referral, or call the receptionist and say, hey, I have a meeting here at your company today. What's your dress code? I heard one gentleman, I think actually, Gabe, I saw you in the interview class, the guy who was the suit and tie guy from Cintas. Were you in that one?
Yes.
And he was talking about, he told a story about how when people come in his office, he made a candidate go back and tighten up his tie because it was a suit and tie place. So, most places are okay to go business casual, but check. If in doubt, dress more professionally than you need to, and you'll be safe. If nothing else, it'll make a good impression. So those are things you absolutely must do, and if you do them well, you'll get informational interviews, you'll get referrals, and jobs will serendipitously come your way. The next thing to do is the best practice is to go a little notch up. And most people aren't even doing this at all. So if you're doing any of these, you're like, bravo, you're doing great. The best practice is always ask for at least one referral. Put 2 or 3, but at least one. If you're doing career research, like I'm just interested in this field, ask for a few. If you're looking for a job, ask for one because they probably don't want to give you too many. So what I'll do is I'll listen to their conversation. If I'm having a conversation, I need to listen carefully. If they mention, oh, I have a friend over at that firm, okay, a mental note, I'll even jot that down at the end, say, hey, you mentioned that guy who works at that one firm, he sounds like he'd be really interesting to talk to, or that project sounded really cool, do you know anyone working on that? Or I'd love to talk to that side of your business. Can I have a referral to someone there? Always ask for at least one referral, because that's the engine that's gonna drive your networking. And if you have a target, if you've done your research ahead of time, you'll know what you should ask for. So maybe you're just researching human resources, and then you're thinking, it's interesting fields. Do you know someone in benefits? Okay, great. Ask for something specific. If you know a firm you'd be interested in, say, hey, this is. You can even show them. This is a list of firms I'm researching. You don't have to say targeting because that sounds creepy. These are a list of firms I'm researching. Do you know anyone at these? Or what's your opinion? Oh, this firm is really reputable. Oh, do you know anyone who works there? Well, yeah. Okay, do you mind if I speak with them? Sure. Most often by this point, if it went poorly, don't ask for a referral, but you'll know. You'll know if it went well, you'll build rapport, you've had a good conversation, and just a dialogue. And so back to the question of the awkwardness, just have a conversation. It can seem pointless, but if you have something you want out of it, if nothing else, I just want to learn about their career, like make that your objective. So always ask for a referral. Second, follow up. Always follow up with an email and a thank you card. Email within 24 hours, thank you card within 48. And I can't stress to you how important this is. I have had interview offers based on a thank you card, and that blows my mind to this day. I had one gentleman who I was just talking to their firm to learn about it, quite honestly, not even looking for a job, and I sent him a thank you card and a thank you email, not in that order. And then he called me back and said, hey, we have a position open, would you like to interview? You did a great job of follow-up, and that's something we look for in our employees. And every career today requires follow-up of some kind. So if you follow up, that shows them that that's how you're going to be as an employee. You're going to be conscientious, you're going to be caring, and you're going to follow up. So when you send me a follow-up email and thank you card, mention something from the informational interview that was interesting, such as, wow, that was a great project you're working on. That's super fascinating. You had some excellent work. Or, wow, that new initiative takes a lot of work. I wish you the best of luck. Mention something specific because it shows that you're actually engaged in a conversation. Or, wow, thank you for those referrals. That was really great. Often I've had such a great conversation, I've forgotten to ask for referrals, so I shoot in the email. Hey, by the way, I had such a great conversation. I meant to ask you, do you know anyone at XYZ? So you can use it as kind of a follow-up to clean up after yourself too. Third, offer them something. And we'll talk about what you can offer them a bit, but if you can offer them something, if nothing else, your enthusiasm, like Patty said, you can go online, scour the internet quite easily and find a blog or an article that will be of interest to them and maybe benefit them or their business. and show them that you're actually interested in it too, enough to be doing research outside of your conversation. But find things you can give them. So Patty mentioned I gave one gentleman a referral. I've given several people referrals to for either someone they could hire. Today I had a job posting, which I had an informational interview with a gentleman at another organization. So I sent it to him and said, hey, if you know anyone who's interested in this, I mean, just doing little things to keep in contact with them and offer them something of value. I mean, that could be, hey, even just, you know, I had such a great conversation. Let me know if I can help you in any way in the future. And if you don't want to ever help them, well, then you shouldn't go into an informational interview because you're getting something from them. But if it's a symbiotic two-way relationship, you guys will continue to help each other as you go along. Fourth, business cards. Most college and recent grads don't have business cards, and most people don't have business cards other than the ones that they have from their employer. Go print up business cards. Like I said, go to vistaprint.com, print up business cards. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It doesn't even have to have, it just can have your name and your contact information. If you know what fields you're targeting, so let's say you want to go into interior design and that's, you just set. So put your name, say Caleb last name, and then write interior design. So when you give the people, it kind of has that brand, oh, Caleb interior design, got it. So it's going to be a quick little marketing tagline, but absolutely have business cards and ask for theirs every time. I had one guy remind me, how can I send them a thank you card? I don't want to ask for their address. It's kind of creepy. And that is kind of creepy. So ask for their business card because they'll have most likely their address and you can send them the card. If it doesn't have their address, try to find their address online and then bag the card if you can. But yeah, it is awkward to ask for their address. So always ask for their business cards so you can stay in contact and give them yours. If you're a recent graduate or in college, for those of you who are in college, that will just impress the heck out of them because college kids don't have business cards. People have been just amazed that, oh, here's my card. What? What? You're a sophomore in college. What are you doing? So anyhow, have business cards. Fifth, ask them if you can stay connected. If you had a great conversation, say, you know, this is really valuable. I have so many more questions. I would love to stay connected. If you're interested, I'd love to meet in the future and ask you some more questions. You'll know if you can ask that because they'll have gone well or poorly, and most likely they'll say yes. In rare occasions, you can meet them subsequently and even ask them to mentor you. If it's someone in the field and you're just like, wow, this person is doing what I exactly want to do, and I hit it off so well and they had so much to offer, after meeting them a couple times, you can say, hey, I would love to engage in a mentoring relationship and you can give me some more of your wonderful advice because you're obviously so knowledgeable in your career, and they say, yes, I am. And then they'll say, sure. So, but seriously, I've heard of people doing that, and I mean, you're gonna ask them to mentor you if it's something you're gonna actually find valuable. So don't do that the first time, but if you meet them again in the future a few times, maybe you can ask that. Sixth, write a summary. I don't care if it's a sentence or a paragraph or 3 pages, write some sort of summary and archive it somewhere, just like a Word doc. The reason is, well, maybe you don't contact them for 6 months and you contact them again. You don't want to just say, hi, how's things going? If you have something specific, even personal stuff such as, oh, maybe they just had a baby born or whatnot, you can email them back and say, hey, how's your son doing? Or I'm just curious about how that project's going. Have details about it because that's going to show that you were on the ball and they're going to be a lot more favorable to respond to you. Additionally, if they gave you something super valuable, you want to record that. So I talked to one gentleman and he said, these are the companies you want to find jobs at. Well, shoot, I need to write that down because that's super important. So make sure you write some sort of summary. And lastly, only schedule 1 per day. The reason is, hopefully I've inspired at least one of you to go become networking machines and you're going to go talk to everyone you can. But informational interviews and networking in general, if you're being purposeful about it, can take a lot of time because you have to identify the person, research them online, research the company, write a list of targeted questions, print up directions to go to a building, often in Seattle, on a tower, find parking, pay for it sometimes, try to find the suite, be engaged for half hour to an hour, and then give them your business card, remember all the steps, go home, write them a thank you email, send them a thank you card, find your stamp it, send it out, you're beat. Every time I've done an informational interview, I've been, seriously, it's a process, but every time I've done it, I've been super jazzed. Every time I do one, I'm like, wow, this is either, wow, I just steered my career away, or that was so amazing, I'm so excited about this field, or my goodness, they gave me this lead and I think that actually could lead to something. So do only 1 per day because they're exhausting, and it's amazing if you do it well. Jobs, opportunities, unbelievably come. It's just amazing, and you can follow the trail forever. And some people will give you too many referrals to even follow up. So only do one per day because it can be exhausting. Any questions about this? I threw out a lot of random information. Pretty straightforward? Okay. You guys are quiet. So I'm either blowing your minds or you're sleepy. So a couple things you can expect. Expect company and job research. Expect job advice for what you should do. Expect to build a relationship and to get at least one referral. That's your goal. Bonuses, resume tips. If you built a good relationship, I wouldn't ask right away, but, oh, and always bring your resume, by the way, because they might ask for it. It's to forward on to someone else, so always bring it. So they may give you resume tips. Maybe it's an industry you're trying to break into, and you've met them a couple times. You can say, hey, could you take a look at my resume? I'm trying to apply for these type of jobs. And if they're in the industry, they'll take a look and say, oh yeah, this sounds like a marketing resume. Yeah, this sounds like an interior designer resume. And so that they can give you tips that you wouldn't have got from someone else. And you can get possible mentor. I mentioned that. Do never expect a job, go in for information, and the jobs will just somehow come. I can't explain how it happens, but it's just kind of crazy. It just leads to jobs if you're doing it the right way and targeting it. If you have a target, you'll get to those targets. If you're just networking randomly, I mean, don't go talk to the guy who clips the lawns to ask about something in film. I mean, maybe he knows someone, but he probably, I mean, odds are he doesn't, as opposed to someone who is in film. So those are the expectations. So what I want you guys to do now, we're gonna do your 30-second advertisement, but actually get up and move around so you guys aren't just sitting. But I'm curious, when you guys think of elevator pitch, what is an elevator pitch to you, or a networking pitch, or a 30-second advertisement? What comes to your mind? Greg?
It's like if you get into an elevator and this high-up guy in a company is stuck with you for 30 seconds, what you could say to him that would just give you a brief overview of who you are and what you're looking for.
Okay. And Gabe, what's your definition?
Basically same thing.
Basically same thing.
Riding from the 5th to the 11th floor with the boss, what could you say to get him interested in you as a potential employee?
Indeed, and that's part of it. So here's a question for you guys, totally separate. Greg, at the beginning, we all went around and said what we want to do. What does Greg, well, you can't answer this, Greg, as you know. What does Greg want to do? So here, crickets? Gabe, IT. What companies does Greg want to work for? Do you know any of those companies? You don't know what they are. Exactly. Someone else. Brooke, what does Brooke want to do? You guys probably should pick this one up. HR, yeah. So what companies is Brooke targeting? Not Microsoft. Exactly. So if the example there is your 30-second pitch, and it's, you always think of the elevator, the big boss, the student. What can I say? He's going to love me. But really, your 30-second pitch, it's not just like a canned, really fake pitch. It's the way you communicate about what you're looking for so that other people can give you a referral. And so the best way, we're going to actually have you guys do this, is a 3-step process. First, who am I and what do I do? I'm an HR professional and I focus on training and development. Secondly, who needs you? Your customers. What places hire HR professionals? Or what type of places are you targeting? And then lastly, how can they help you? How can they give you a referral? So it doesn't just have to be a canned, oh, boss guy in the elevator. My name's Dan and I'm a career counselor and I'd love to work at, oh boy, and do you have a referral? I mean, or can you hire me? But essentially think of who you are, and it can be something that catches their attention, such as maybe a financial planner, and they say, what do you do for a living? Well, you know how the market just crashed and people lost their 401ks? Yeah? Well, I help people make sure that they don't. I'm a really good financial planner. I'm the top of my game. I'm a free agent right now. I'm actually looking for financial institutions that hire financial planners. And here's a few companies I'm targeting. Do you happen to know anyone at these companies? Or, yeah, if you heard of that company, what do you know about them? And so that way, if you portray to them what you're looking for and they know someone, they can help get you there. So let's say you were talking to the guy who clips the grass and you mentioned that you want to go into film and do script writing, and he says, and that's actually pretty specific, targeted itself, and so he says, oh wow, well my uncle is a script writer. No way, grass clipper dude, that's awesome. So, but if you just talked to him and said, yeah, I'm looking for jobs, oh, good luck, oh, best of luck. But if you actually give them something specific, they can actually maybe help you get there. So who you are, what I want you guys to do is we'll take a few minutes, write down who you are, what you do. If you can think of anything out of the ordinary that catches someone's attention, write that. And then who needs what you do? Who are your customers? So if you do IT, who hires IT people? And if you have a career that's somewhat vague, so for example, I am a career counselor and the industry I could go into is outplacement. And some of you are like, I don't even know what that is, so I have to tell it to you. So if you have a field that needs a little explanation, like if you're in accounting, you say, oh, I'm an accountant, I'm looking for accounting firms. Gotcha, know exactly what that is. I can picture an accountant and they're crunching numbers. If you're in a non-typical field, give them some explanation of what that is and maybe some of the places that would hire it for that. And then ask them and figure out how they can help you. No, don't ask them how they can help you, but think, what is it that they can help me with? Can I ask them for a referral to a specific company? Would they be able to keep their ears open for jobs at this company or people who work at this company? And so essentially you want to have talking points, not a script. So when you have a conversation, you can just have actually a natural conversation, not have it fake. So you're just trying to sell them and it's awkward because no one likes that and you're going to hate it. Just have a few talking points like who you are, what do you do? Where could you work? Who are the people? As you're talking to them, how could they possibly help you? Even carrying around your list of companies or in your head saying, yeah, I'm thinking of working at this, this, and this. Oh, really? I know someone who works there. Oh, yeah, really? What do they do? I'd be interested to talk to them, just learn about their job and research the company, see if it's a good fit. Because like we talked about earlier, you want to work at a company that's a good fit, not just a career. Most people, some people may love their job and but hate their boss, and so they think they're in the wrong field, but maybe they just hate their boss. So you want to find a good fit with a company boss. Another story, talk about that next week in interviewing. So take a few minutes, write down your 30-second advertisement, and then we're going to come back together and actually practice on each other so you're going to get a chance to real-time practice it. So be prepared to speak it in front of people. And let's take about 7 minutes to do this. So obviously this is kind of unnatural and you're not just going to go meet someone and give them your quick little spiel. But the point is, if you don't know how to communicate what you're looking for, that's probably one of the biggest areas that people mess up on. And if you can't communicate what you're looking for, how can they help you get there? So if you're in an informational interview and you're going to have a longer conversation than this, you should be able to communicate what type of positions or what your goals are so that if they happen to find something that would match you well, they could call you up and pass that on. So if you called someone back a month later and said, hey, do you remember what I'm looking for, just a test, and they couldn't tell you, that means you didn't do a good job conveying that. Now, to have your 30-second, in all reality, it's not going to be 30 seconds, but just kind of give you the pressure idea. And in reality, it's going to be more of a conversation. But if you meet someone in passing and they could be helpful to you, or if you're at a professional association, when you go talk to someone, they're going to move on to someone else, you need to be able to give convey what you're looking for quickly. And if you can't get that last part, if it feels forced, ask for their business card, or follow up with them later. But at least be able to engage in a conversation where you talk about what you're looking for and how they can possibly aid you as well. So,
can I just add one thing? I'm not sure if you were just talking about your actual jobs, but sometimes you don't need to communicate an actual job. You can talk about your skill set. Because there are jobs out there that, none of us have heard the title, but it could be a really good fit for you. So to communicate, well, I'm good at, X, Y, and Z, and of course in 30 seconds you wouldn't have had this much time. But then in a two-way conversation, to say, for example, I worked on this project, and here's what I did, here was a challenge, here was the actions I took, and here are the results. So could that illustrate like 3 or 4 of your key skills? That's a really effective way. Someone would say, have you ever thought of, especially those of you that maybe are saying there's no way I can get a job in my field currently because of what's going on with the economy, and I'm going to have to detour a little. So to know, to be able to identify your transferable skills, and someone could give you some valuable advice and point you in a direction where there could be some opportunities.
Indeed, yeah, that's absolutely critical. If the skills you have can be relevant somewhere else. So we will talk about. That's excellent. That's why Patty's here. Anything that could be transferable to another field, especially if you're looking outside your general area. So as we talked right now, so Caleb and Candace, you guys are in the same field? if you guys didn't, you should exchange contact information later, because while you're not on the job market right now for at least a year, someone could still hire an intern on a lower budget or unpaid, and maybe the economy will be better by the time you're out. So as you guys talk, if you saw someone who could benefit you, go talk to them. So we're gonna have 5 minutes, so we'll wrap up. The last couple things are how to manage your network. If you're not on LinkedIn, absolutely go on LinkedIn. Add me if you want, add Patty. And this is one of the best ways to quickly get connected with people. Go online, go to the advanced people search, probably the best feature that they have, and find the keywords for your industry. So for example, like I heard you mentioning CAD or color boards, whatever, find your keywords for industry, type them in. If you have a company you're interested in, type that company in, type in your geographic specifications. It'll find all the people on LinkedIn who are in your field, have those keywords or whatever you typed in, and it'll show you if you're connected to them. If you're not connected to them, at least you have a name, and then you can find other ways. So for example, let's say you found someone at XYZ company and you go on their website, and their website, if you go under media relations, the media relations contact is joe.smith@xyz.com. So you go take that person's name and plug it in the way their email is structured, and you just go ahead and email them. And it's super easy. Use LinkedIn to connect with people. Use to store your contacts. You can store them in Gmail. Use tons of ways to store them. Main thing, don't leave them all on LinkedIn, because if LinkedIn ever crashes one day, your networking goes out the window. So export to Excel like once a year or something, and have them somewhere else so you don't lose that. Also, I mentioned this in the resume thing too, but more and more often these days, employers are using social media to essentially get a free check on you. So make sure your Facebook, MySpace, whatever is clean. Google yourself, see what comes up. And in fact, you can use it as something to promote yourself as opposed to hindering. And be on these things, because this is a great place to meet people. So if you're on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, go under LinkedIn under answers. See who's answering a lot of questions in your field of expertise. I bet you they're connected to a lot of people. Connect with them. If they're one of the people who are answering lots of questions or have lots of expertise, they'll be open to any connection. Usually, you can connect with them and get referrals. So there's tons of ways, and the internet resources are just endless, the opportunities you can have. Lastly, maintaining your network. What can you do to give them value? We talked about this earlier. Blogs and articles, referrals, holidays and events. Great way to keep in touch with them. This is how to keep in touch with your network. Email them. I email people on New Year's, and I send them a huge mass personalized email to all my contacts on the New Year's. Happy New Year. This is what I'm up to. What are you doing? And other things, this is a way you can keep in contact. Ask them about their projects that they're doing, or you can even volunteer for projects. So for those of you who are in school, find an organization, volunteer your time, do a project, or even volunteer your time and say, hey, I'd be willing to help you out with this. I'm really interested in it. People won't often turn down free work, especially if it's a smaller organization. You probably can't do that at Microsoft unless you know a group or a specific manager. But I've done several projects with organizations just pro bono to give them exposure to myself and to learn about their company. So there's multiple ways that you can add value to the informational interview or networking process and give people things. So with that, it's 8 o'clock, and you guys have been very patient. So thank you very much. Hopefully this is valuable. If you have any more questions, feel free to talk to Patty, myself, or shoot us an email. Thank you so much.
And come back next
week
for interviewing, because there's one thing to get a networking appointment and another to get an interview, but it's that the interview is what will get you the job.
Certainly. Yeah, so mark yourself and then close the deal. So thank you. Same time.
Same place, same time.
And on the way out, Patty actually in front of her has an informational interview checklist, which, I mean, I give you tons of information, so you can just use this before you go in to make sure you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's, and don't forget to send a follow-up email or thank you card. So thank you so much.